Hello! Welcome to Pixel Pub. Tonight we're going to be changing it up from the regular Destiny run, and we're going to be trying out some stuff with Magic the Gathering. I wouldn't say recently, um, but I have been toying with a program called Cockatrice, and what I wanted to do is show you kind of what all you can do with Cockatrice, the program. Um, Give you some examples of awesome things you can end up doing with the program, and just introduce you to something I think that could maybe help your wallet a bit as far as being able to play Magic for way cheap, and also getting to have a lot of fun. So the way this works is you can go to woogerworks.com, WOOGER works.com. You can download this program. It'll recently install all the recent cards and stuff. You can create a username and profile in order to log onto their server, which you'll eventually want to do. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over how to build a deck, how to use this program to play Magic, and you can pretty much play any deck you want for free using this program. So this comes with a huge advantage of being able to play pretty much whatever deck you want for pretty much next to nothing. Okay, so when you start out, you're going to have a bunch of options here. So one is to connect to get to a server to play other people. You can start a local game. You can watch a replay you saved. You can go to the deck editor. You can go to full screen mode. And you can go to settings for things like appearance if you want to change the background, all that fun stuff if you're super fancy, and go from there. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go to deck editor and show you what you can do here. So if you want to build a deck, okay, so like let's say if I want to build like a red deck wins kind of deck or whatever, so I can search, so I can say, okay, I want to found Foundry Street Denizen, I want to add 4 of those, so I can use this green button here to add 4 of those. I want to add, Goblin Rabble Master, I'm going to add 4 of those. I'm going to add some, Mardu Scout, so I add 4 of those in here. Let's say I want to do Fire Drinker Satyr and add 4 of those, so I can go through and build my deck. I accidentally had one of these guys in here, so I'm going to get rid of him and go back to Foundry Street Denizen. For those, oops, wrong one. But you can change the deck from here. Okay, another brilliant option that they allow here is, let's say in the deck editor that you want to load a deck from clipboard right here. So you can go through and see whatever options you've got from those items. I'm not sure if you can see what's in my load deck from clipboard right now, but let me go find like an example real quick of a deck. So I'm going to go and just find the most recent red deck wins real quick. Go to deck editor, load deck from clipboard, say I don't care, and hit OK, and it'll load all those items into here. Okay, so I can get a deck all set up right here, and if I want to save that, I can say, okay, go ahead and save this deck, and I'll put, red deck wins, and here's my options, and boom, this deck is all good to go. And I can even, give it a name in here, save it. I have a deck that I can use for whatever I want. So you see in here, sideboard, Adeline of the Great Reveal, that kind of stuff. Okay, so you build a deck this way, and you save it as whatever kind of format you want. When you see save deck as, you can sort it as a .cod, DEC, or MW deck. Kind of type you're playing, and just go from there. Okay, so let's talk about the meat and potatoes of this particular game, which is essentially how to play it. Okay, now there's a lot of shortcuts you can use to go through the game as quickly as possible. And what I want to do is go over some of those shortcuts and show you what's up. What's up through, by the way? The program's pretty awesome. If you just installed it, you're going to save a lot of money enjoying a lot of this game. Okay, so I'm not connected to an online game. I'm going to start a local game just to show you some of the shortcuts. If you have any questions while you're watching this, just go ahead and let me know. So when you start a game, if it's 1 or 2 players, doesn't matter. You're going to set up with some options to load a local deck, load a deck from server, and whether you're ready to start or whether your sideboard gets locked. Okay, so I'm going to load a local deck, and I'm going to pick my Jeskai Tokens deck. Okay, so you'll see here in my main deck, my 60 cards, what I have available here, all these options, and what I have in my sideboard. Okay, so I can go into the whole reason of why I've chosen these particular cards sometimes later. I'm hoping to get a chance to play this more often and show you guys why I think Jeskai Tokens is pretty awesome. I think Temur right now is pretty strong as well. Yeah, through. There's so many rules of this game. So if you're doing stuff manually right now, I'll try to show you some of the shortcuts that can really help. So once you've picked your deck, everything's good to go. So first game, I'm not going to do anything with my sideboard. I'm going to say I'm ready to start. Okay, so I'm in a single player game. I'm going to show you some things you can do to do this pretty quickly. So the first one is Control I. Okay, it's going to say go ahead and roll a die. Okay, you may not see this just because the streaming program is not going to show it. And it's going to say right here, Chris rolls a nat 1 with a 20-sided die. I fall flat on my face with a 1. Okay, the other person would roll a die as well. Let's say they roll an 8, so they're going to go first. Okay, so now you can hit Control M, okay, to draw your initial hand. And if you would like to mulligan that hand, you can hit Control M again. If you're wondering where I'm getting all these shortcuts, up here if you hit Game for player 1 and you look at things like hand, reveal random cards, take mulligan, move hand to library, etc. That's where all these shortcuts are coming from. Okay? So in this particular case, just because we're going through an example game, I'm not going to mulligan, I'm just going to keep. But if we go through here, I can mulligan, go down to 6, mulligan to go down to 5, mulligan down to 4, and go from there. Okay? So if I mulligan down to, let's say, 1, and I want to concede, I can hit F2. Are you sure you want to concede the game? Yes, I do. And I'll go back to the main start, and I can change the sideboard, all that sorts of fun stuff. But let's go through a game here. So I'm going to hit Control I again. Okay. You can hit Control S to shuffle. So if you see on the side here where it says player 1 shuffles his library a whole bunch, so I keep shuffling like crazy, just make sure it's super shuffled. Pro shuffle right there. So I hit Control M and I draw. Okay, and I'm happy with this. Okay, so I'm going to keep this. So let's say that I'm going first. So normally I have my untap step, so it's going to say right here, player 1 untaps his permanents. I go to draw. Because it's my first turn, I'm not going to draw. I'm not going to do anything with draw. I'm just going to ride to my main phase. Okay, and in this case, I'm going to take my Mystic Monastery from my hand, and I'm going to put it onto the playing field. Okay, it comes out tapped. Mystic Monastery enters the battlefield tapped. Okay, there's nothing else I can do. I don't have any combat phases, no main 2, no nothing else. I'm going to go to my end phase. Okay, now when you're playing with, can you move your screen up a little? The top, I think you're saying? Bottom area is cut off a bit. Why is that happening? We know if that fixed it. Change up the screen just a little bit. Thank you for catching that, by the way. Let's try that. That should be just wide enough. I apologize. I'm on a WQHD screen, so I'm only showing on like 2/3 of my screen. So I end up sometimes going a little bit harder than 1080. Perfect. That's fixed. Thank you for notifying me about that. Okay, so I put up Mystic Monastery. Comes out tapped. I put the end phase. So if this is somewhere where you wanted to put something like raise the alarm out, or if you wanted to lightning strike with some kind of instant, this is where you would do that. Okay, but since I'm just playing one player for an example, I'm going to pass, okay, just like you would do if you're playing a person. I'll untap, so it untaps all my permanents. I'm going to hit draw. I'm going to hit it again to actually draw a card, and I'll go to my main phase. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to put out a Battlefield Forge. and I can tap both, so you can just tap one at a time, like this, okay? And you'll see right here, it's showing what I'm doing, just so the other player can look through what I'm doing. But I'm going to drag and drop these two, and double-click attack both at the same time. So use a white here and an uncolored to bring out Seeker of the Way. Obviously he was summoned, so he can't attack immediately. And I'm not going to go to combat or anything else, so I'm just going to go right to my end phase, just to speed up the game. Okay? So at this point the other player would pass, or if they had something to play, but let's say they pass, they have their turn, and I'm going to go and untap, go to my draw phase, draw again, pick up a Temple of Triumph, and now I can continue. Okay, so let's talk about instants. Okay, so let's say I play Temple of Triumph, okay, and I'm going to go to my main phase here, which is what I should have done. Temple of Triumph comes out tapped, and I can look at my main library. Okay, so you can use Control W to view the top cards from your library, or you can just right-click on your library and use View Top Cards of Library and select one. Okay, so right here I'm going to see Flooded Strand. I'd kind of like some land, and I'd kind of like some fodder for a treasure cruise. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that. So I'll just hit X. If I wanted to send this to the bottom of my library, I'd right-click and move to bottom of library. And you can move it to wherever you want. But since I don't want to get rid of it, I'm just going to hit X and get out of there. And here you're seeing player 1 is looking at the top cards of their library. Player 1 stops looking at their library. So it's telling the other player exactly what I'm doing. Okay? It's my main one. Now if I choose to attack, okay, so I've hit start a combat, and then I go to attack, I can attack with this guy. You can use right click, so I'm holding my right click right here, to aim at the other player. Now since I'm only playing single player, I can't aim at him, but if I wanted to say I'm swinging at him, or I'm swinging at a planeswalker, or whatever else, I can choose to right click and drag it to that person saying, hey, I'm swinging at this person. Okay? Because with a planeswalker, I can choose to swing at the planeswalker, I can choose to swing at the person. Okay. So I deal, let's say, 2 damage to that person, and go from there. Now if I wanted to, because Seeker of the Way has prowess, meaning whenever I cast a non-creature spell, I could choose to cast Raise the Alarm, to bring it to a 3/3 with lifelink, and go from there. But I'm just going to attack with 2/2 for now. We're just going through example. Okay. So I go to end, the other person passes, they play their turn, I untap, so it untaps both of those, I draw, and I go to my main phase. Okay, so I bring out Flooded Strand, okay, here. Now one thing that I could have done, that we'll do an example just now, just in the main phase, is Raise the Alarm, and I'll show you how to use tokens here real quick. Okay, so let's say I wanted to use Raise the Alarm. Okay, so I'm going to tap a white here, and a colorless from Battlefield Forge to bring out Raise the Alarm. Now I'm going to put it in this red area here, which is the stack. Okay, so if you played a couple games of Magic, you may know that people can respond with things in the stack, and it can get kind of complicated, especially if you have like 2 Jeskai Ascendancy combos playing against one another, with Disdainful Strokes or etc., or you know, Dig Through Time, all sorts of fun stuff. So it'll automatically put itself top to the bottom based on the stack. Okay, so I taps 2 and put this here. If someone had a counter spell on their side, they could tap and then respond. And typically what you'll do is that if you're okay with that person casting that spell, like if you have blue available or something like that, you can respond and say, okay, hey, I'm good. I'm not gonna do anything against this. Okay? So here's how you can create tokens. Okay, so while this is on the stack, I'm going to hit Control T, okay, and it's going to bring up my token things. Now you can have default tokens like soldiers here, like this, or goblins, or insects, or whatever. So I have my soldier here. Now if you don't have this as a default, you can go here to, in your deck editor, once you have your deck editor open, go to the Edit Tokens and create default tokens. Someone just asked a question, does the mana program not show how much mana you're currently using? Okay, it does not. If you want to count your mana specifically, so let's say I untap this before I play Raise the Alarm or whatever. If I tap this, I could say, alright, I'm using a red, and I'm using a colorless right here. So right here it's saying R to 1+ and X to 1+. And then when I cast Raise the Alarm, I'm going to deduct, or not a red, a white, obviously. So right here, white and colorless, to cast Raise the Alarm. Now, most people that you're playing will know that you're going to use this to cast a white from Temple of Triumph and a colorless from Battlefield Forge. Now, let's say you make a mistake. So let's say that I bring something out that costs 2 red. So I tap both of these and I bring out, let's say, something that costs 2 red, and I don't deduct a life. The person will probably call you out on it. If they don't, consider yourself lucky and don't do that next time. Like if you're casting Searing Blood or something. So let's say you did do that, you can deduct your life by right-clicking on your life. You can add life by just regular clicking on it to give yourself life, and it will show every time. Okay, so let's go back to Raise the Alarm. So I tap both of these, and I bring out Raise the Alarm, and I want to create some tokens. I'm going to hit Control-T to bring out my soldiers, and I'm going to bring out just one. Okay, now a nice thing is you can click here and hit Control-J to copy it or clone it. Okay, so I hit Control-J and I'll have my 2 soldier icons out. Okay, so that'll go into the graveyard now from the stack. Everything's good to go. And Seeker of the Way will have prowess. Now, if you would like to show that it has 3/3 versus just trusting the player understands it has 3/3, you can use things like Control Plus to add their power, Control Minus to remove their power. You can hit Alt Plus to add toughness, Alt Minus to remove toughness, and then I forget the button off the top of my head to increase both of them, but if you hit both Control and Alt at the same time with plus, so if we hit Control Alt Plus, we'll put it to 3/3. Now, I will say for most of the players that you are playing against, you're not going to need to say, you're not going to need to actually modify their power and toughness. People will know this has prowess and this is currently a 3/3 with lifelink. So right here it says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, like Raise the Alarm, you're going to get +1/+1 until every turn, and it'll go ahead and get lifelink. So whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Seeker of the Way gets lifelink until end of turn. Okay, so I can go to start of combat to attack. So I swing, I aim it at somebody, and I got 3 life. Okay, so I can either hit 1, 2, 3 to add 3 life, or I can hit Control L to change my life. So right here you'll just see +3. So like someone hits you for like 12 or something, okay, and you need to go down to 11. You can just change it real quick, and it'll say their life is set to 11 minus 12. Okay. But we're just playing an example game here, so I'm going to go back to my main life. And the only way this arrow disappears is when I go to the next phase. Okay, when everything's all good to go. So let's say I attack, and I go to my end phase, and I pass, untap, draw, login. Hey, Jinja. It's going good. I am trying to help people learn how to use this program. I think this program is amazing. Cockatrice. It is free. It is epic. And I hope I can get more people playing it. Okay, so I start my main draw phase. I drew another Seeker of the Way. I've got my Treasure Cruise, Valorous Stance, Lightning Strike, etc. So let's say I want to bring out another non-creature spell, or Seeker of the Way, or etc. Okay, so I want to bring out a red, blue, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use Flooded Strand here. Just an example. Let's say I want to bring out an island. Okay, so I'll go to my main phase. I'm going to tap Flooded Strand. I'm going to right-click on my life, bring me down to 22, and I'm going to go ahead and view my library. Okay, now see this awesome checkbox right here that says Shuffle when closing? Right there. So I'm going to find the island in my deck, and I'm going to drag it onto the board. Okay, and I'm going to close it and shuffle it. Okay, so we'll say Chris shuffles, or player 1 shuffles library. I'll Control S 100 million times, whatever, just for the heck of it. And I'll put Flooded Strand into the graveyard. Now, you can put that into the stack. You can put it in the graveyard immediately, but most players know exactly what's going on. And you can either leave that right there, or you can put it in the stack, or you can put it right in the graveyard. If they need to respond to anything, they can do that then. Okay, so let's say I pay a, let's say white, blue, red. Okay, and I think someone was asking about mana before, so if I wanted to, I could put red, blue, white on the counter, put out Jeskai, and then subtract those three. These typically come into play when you're using like devotion decks, when you're going to have an obscene amount of mana. Okay, so I put this out, the Jeskai Ascendancy. That's a non-creature spell that triggers Seeker of the Way. Now if I wanted to, like I said, I could hit Control, Alt, and Plus to change that to a 3/3 till end of turn with lifelink. Or I can just assume the player knows exactly what I'm doing and just say, hey, it's a 3/3 from the prowess. Okay, so I start with attack, and I can aim it wherever I want, whatever else, aim it at all the things, the land, everything else. And then when I hit the next phase, we'll go from there. So I end combat, go to main 2, that sucker stays tapped, and the other person can pass and continue as playing. Okay, so I draw, I go to main. Now let's talk about some of the things that can happen with you stacking multiple things. Okay, so I've got 3 creatures on the board: Seeker of the Way, Soldier, Soldier, and I have Jeskai Ascendancy, which in case you don't know says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Untap those creatures. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Okay. Now I don't know if you know a whole lot about priority, but whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So let's say that I pay, let's say I pay a red and a colorless to play Lightning Strike. I'm going to put that on the stack. Okay. So I could choose to deal damage first, or I can use Jeskai Ascendancy to draw a card, and I'll use Control D to draw a card for that land. And then I have to discard a card, and I'm going to get rid of a Seeker of the Way. Okay. In case you're wondering why I'm doing this, it's for Treasure Cruise to get more delve power. Okay. And then I'll deal 3 damage to, and I can point it to whatever I want to aim it to, and then that leaves the stack. Okay. Now right now, all of my creatures have +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay. Now, in case you don't know about some of the combos that can be happening here, Stoke the Flames, for instance, with Convoke, where you can tap your creatures. This is an awesome card in that situation because untap those creatures. So you can tap 4 creatures. Let's say you have 2 goblins on the board, and cast Stoke the Flames. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell like Stoke the Flames, you can untap those creatures, and they get +1/+1. Okay, I love this card, Jeskai Ascendancy. It's so amazing. So I've cast a non-creature spell. So all of these, if I wanted to, I can hit Control Alt plus. Okay, and it's going to say all of these got 2/2, 2/2, 3/3, because all of them get +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay, now I don't necessarily need to do that. Okay, the other player may know that I have this card and go from there. If you find out that the other player is an idiot, then you may want to do that so they understand what's going on. Yes, that's more maintenance for you, but there are many morons in the universe, and you can't help all of them. Okay, so I have a 3/3, a 2/2, and a 2/2, so I could drag and drop all 3 of these, click it, and attack from there, and I'm good to go. Okay, I am going to actually kill this game, and I'm going to show you just one more local game with a deck that is more on delve related items. Whoops. Okay, so I'm going to ready to start, and I'm going to just real quick bring a card in here and talk about things like Sidisi and Hornet Queen and whatever else. We'll do Satyr Wayfinder, and I'll show you what to do in these kind of types of cards. Okay, so let's say that I went second. I'm going to draw. I'm going to bring a Frontier Biovac out real quick, and I'm just going to play through this real quick, just to show you what's going on. I'm going to my main phase. I'm going to put out, oh, I didn't have any land. Let's say I have a land. Okay, so just do, bring this on. I should have never kept that card in a million years. Okay, so I bring this out. I've got my green and my red. I'm going to tap both of these for a Seder Wayfinder. Okay, so Seder Wayfinder Dream, no music this stream. Oh, you know what? I should put MonsterCon on. Mastercat. Holy crap. Whatever it's called, into the background because it is some awesome music. I just don't have that set up yet. That's something Bloodrave normally sets up. He's got his whole setup super epic. So maybe once I finish like this introduction, if I'm actually going to play some games, I'll set up some music. That's actually a really good recommendation. My bad on that. So it says, when Seder Wayfinder enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them into your hand. Okay, so how do you do that? Okay, so you take your cards like this, and you just reveal them on the stack. Just like that. The only land in here is a Frontier Biovac. Okay, so I can go ahead and put that into my hand. Okay, and then these 3 cards are going to go to my graveyard. I can select all 3 of them and just drop into the graveyard. Just like that. Okay, piece of cake. Okay, so I have my Seder Wayfinder. Go to end, pass, untap, go to my draw phase, draw, I've got a Mana Confluence, hit my main phase, and go from there. Okay, so let's say I wanted to do that again, put out a Frontier Biovac, tap these 2, put out a Seder Wayfinder, draw the top 4 cards into the stack. Okay, let's say I want to keep the Bloodstained Mire, and put that in my hand, and then I'll drag all 3 of these, put them in my graveyard. Lots of delve stuff right now. And then go to my end, pass, tap, go to draw, and as you're seeing, once you get an idea how to play this game, you're good to go. Okay? And just as an example, we'll go through Bloodstained Mire. So I'm gonna bring out Bloodstained Mire, I'm gonna tap it, put it onto the stack, or sacrifice it really. View library, bring out a swamp. Okay. Put that onto the field. Shuffle a couple 100 times for the heck of it, and I'll bring out all 4 for Sidisi Brute Tyrant. And this has, whenever Sidisi Brute Tyrant enters the battlefield or attacks, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Okay, so just to show the other player what I'm doing, I'm going to put all 3 onto the stack real quick, just to see if I have a creature. Okay, I don't, so I'm just going to put those into my graveyard. Okay. So let's say next turn, so I end, go to pass, untap, or whoops, draw, go to main. Okay. So right here, when Sidisi Brute Tyrant enters the battlefield, it also has whenever 1 or more creatures are put into your graveyard from your library, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. Okay. So let's say that I play Seder Wayfinder. Like this. Like a boss. Okay. And so I drag 4 things over to find a land. So I take Opulent Palace. Well, 3 cards are going to go from my library to my graveyard, like Hornet Queen. Okay, so that allows me to create a zombie. Okay, so again, Control T to create a item. I'm going to create a zombie. So I'll type zombie in here with caps for added effect. It is black. It's a 2/2. So now I have that creature here from Seder Wayfinder. And let's say I go to start a combat and I attack. Let's say I swing with these 3 or whatever. So before they can defend blockers, Seder Wayfinder is going to trigger, or not Seder Wayfinder, Sidisi, that says whenever I attack. So I'll drag the top 3 on again, and I've got Alesha who smiles at death there. So I'll create another one, so I can just hit Control J, my zombie, make another one. Okay, and you'll see the board automatically is adjusting here with a wider thing. So like if I keep getting more zombies and making it wider and wider, the game will try to adjust. So your resolution is getting smaller. It's just trying to help it out. Now if I keep switching it up to put more zombies on top of each other, or if I move this to the graveyard, it'll automatically shrink up to make it more visible. So it's nice in that regards. So I'll take all these, put them in the graveyard, and just keep going from there. Okay, and I've gone through a considerable amount of cards in my library very quickly. Okay, so I think I've gone through most of the basics. What I'll do real quick is go through some of the shortcuts real quick, just to show you, just to keep some of the basic shortcuts in mind. So Control I is to roll a dice. Okay, whenever you go first, you always want to use that. You can hit Control M. So I'm going to conceive this game real quick with F2. Let's say I'm ready to start. So Control M will draw my main hand. If I hit Control M again, I will mulligan, and I can keep mulliganing. Okay. Control T is to create a token. Control J is to clone. So let's say I put a cloakin on the board. That is a black 2/2. Whoops. And I want to clone it. I can hit Control J to clone that again. I got my 2 zombies out. If you want to lose a lot of life at the same time, you can hit Control L. Change your life card or whatever you want. So let's say you have a whip of Erebos and you just got 12 life. You can change to 32. And it'll show right there. Set the life to 32 plus 12. Okay, or you can just hit like click on your life to add life, or right click to remove life one at a time. Okay, you've got your mana counters, you've got how many cards you've got in hand, and go from there. Okay, I'm going to take a short break. I'll be right back. I'm actually going to pick up some of that Monster Cat music so we can have some jams while we're playing some games. Okay, I will be right back.